Good evening. This is Maestro with the Dawn of War 2 Retribution Elite Modcast. Today, I've got a match from Division B of the Elite League. Our first player is going to be Overtly Gemerous, playing as the Apothecary. This is a Space Marine healing commander with a targeted heal and a passive health regeneration aura. His opponent will be WingBlade, playing as the Commando knob in this game one right here. Sneaky orc with bombs, guns, and knives to kill you, all sneaky-like. So then, back to Division B. I think I'll probably just alternate. We'll see if my upload schedule actually works out like that. But, yeah, interesting players to see here. WingBlade was I believe, a semi-finalist of the previous season of Elite League. Overtly Gemerous did not participate in the previous season. He is very well known for playing the Apothecary in team games, also very well known for not building units until Tier 3. But he's playing a 1v1 game right now. Can't rely on his teammates to just, well, we'll say it this way, to carry him throughout the first... Well, you know, to be fair to him, actually watching some of those faction wars, it wasn't his teammates carrying him. A lot of times he actually was kind of carrying, even with only, like, 2 units. But, yeah, so just to reiterate, just in case you are catching this as your first video of the Elite League is a 1v1 competition. This one taking place over the span of about 2 weeks, but I'll be casting it far longer than that. Begins with a round-robin group stage where every player plays each other. However, the competition is split into 2 divisions, A and B. A and B is considered the higher skill bracket. However, don't just make yourself think that anyone who's in Division B is suddenly not good. Quite a few of them are quite good. And it is especially interesting to see Overtly Gemerous here playing in 1v1. He is a player who I had kind of thought of as being mostly a 3v3 player, and perhaps that is true, but here he is playing 1v1. And sometimes some of the higher skill level players who focus more on 1v1 tend to look down a little bit on some of the players who play 3v3 mostly or exclusively. But, you know, at the end of the day, if you're putting hundreds or thousands of hours into this game, you're going to learn things about it. You're going to start learning how to actually play. And if you suddenly go into a 1v1 game, there's going to be plenty of things about this game that you will know. And for all I know, Overtly Gemerous has played 1v1 games, and I just haven't seen it until now. So, Commando Knob is going to be knocked over there by one of Overtly Gemerous' favorite war gears, the Purification Rites. I have seen him get this many, many times over. WingBlade definitely starting out a little bit more strongly in this this opening as well. For the moment, at least, we actually have a slight lead in victory points for Overtly Gemerous, but WingBlade is pretty quickly taking control of the map. He will soon have a triple cap, although it does look like Overtly Gemerous will at least be able to get the cap on the contested victory point to slow things down a little bit. But he's got a flamer on his tax squad, so I figured that out, which is he's going to move the tax in to attempt the generator bash. Even with the shooters here, I think the tax can still bash just one generator before the shooters can stop him. Okay, maybe not. Wow, okay, pretty nice play by WingBlade, bringing his Storm Boys back over. Suppression from the Shooter Boys prevents the Tactical Marines from even getting in range to open fire on the generators. I honestly thought that what was going to happen there was the aiming whatstat was just going to suppress the Tactical Marines. It would delay them bashing the generators for a little bit, but then eventually they would get unsuppressed and then just start bashing, and they would even just withstand some of the shooter DPS. But the Storm Boys coming in there, that changes the thing, and that changes the story entirely. Storm Boys do a lot of power melee damage. Tactical Marines cannot afford to be in melee with them for very long, otherwise they will bleed models quite quickly, within seconds. Power melee on those Storm Boy models. Shotguns on some of these scouts. In fact, I think we've got shotguns on both scouts. And this is kind of a lot of power in upgrades, I would say, for Overtly Gemerous this early on in the game. Especially to get all of these upgrades that he had. He could have gotten a squad of Assault Marines out at this time, which I do feel is pretty typical. Like, if I were to play the Apothecary, which I actually do have some experience with that, I probably would go into a Scout, Tac Scout, Assault Marine build. I think it's a pretty standard and fairly reliable build for Space Marines, but to make that happen, usually that means you're going to save power on some of these upgrades. The Flamer, the shotguns, not always really seen as necessary to get 2 shotguns this early. A lot of players will, more often I say, get 1 shotgun, and then that 1 shotgun is your primary defensive scout that is with your main army near your attacks, near your Apothecary. Whereas your second scout squad, if it's going to be more in a capping role for much of Tier 1, the shotguns are kind of considered a little bit of an unnecessary investment. So, I mean, we could just chalk this up to, like, the style, just intentional decisions, but, you know, part of me does also wonder if this is more of, like, a 3v3 approach from Overtly Gemerous. But I could also just be totally wrong, and maybe he plays plenty of 1v1s, and I'm sure he could school me just fine in 1v1s. I will still say this, though, and this I will say a little bit more confidently, that getting Purification Rights on top of 2 shotguns, in my opinion, that is a little excessive in terms of the melee counters. Like, a little excessive in Tier 1. I don't disagree with them entirely, and by Tier 2, I think all those upgrades are fine, but to get all of them in Tier 1 does seem like a little bit of an overinvestment, in my opinion. Meanwhile, Commando Knob, unupgraded. Upgrades on Shooters and Sluggers. A little bit more standard. Double Sluggers even, only just noticing that now. Commando Knob is here. Commando Knob, it's a little bit strange that the Commando Knob is getting in this close, or how he ended up getting that close. So it must be... I definitely just missed why that ever happened. Commando Knob does such good damage with his ranged weapon that he will bleed scout models pretty quickly. And he also has longer range on that than a shotgun scout squad, so it's really more ideal for him to try to attempt to stay out of the shotgun scout's range if he's going to end up fighting them. So double sluggers coming in. Maybe I should take back a little bit about what I said. If we've got double sluggers and storm boys, maybe the double shotguns with the Purification Rights is warranted. Ooh, I think that was a heal that went down, but I think it was on the shotgun scouts. He may not even meant it on the shotgun scouts, because then I did not see the Purification Rights actually hit on any of the storm boys. So Overtly Gemerous going to get a Razorback out. Death Dread coming out for WingBlade. If we're talking about blind purchases, I would give a slight edge here to the Death Dread, especially with WingBlade already having the bigger army, because I think he can move forward with this. Wow, Bomb on Boys nearly takes out the Apothecary, because I think he can move forward with this. Bosh, whatever that means, bash what little Overtly Gemerous has in terms of his generator farm, and that will just put him in a very strong position. Ooh, the Apothecary sticking in there just a little bit too long. I mean, I saw that he got jumped on, had to deal with the Storm Boys, had no health, but then he used the Purification Rights heal and knocked them down. I think as soon as that happened, he needed to retreat immediately. The Purification Rights heal there would not serve to actually allow him to continue fighting, but instead to allow him simply to retreat. Looks like he used, I believe he used Laraman's Blessing. Yes, he used Laraman's Blessing to revive himself. Certainly a unique thing that the Apothecary has. Literally unique in that he's the only one who has that. So while the Death Dread is here, he's actually going to make a play for the Razorback. I don't think this should result in a kill. He could chase it all the way into base, but I think, or, no, the Razorback just shouldn't go toward the base. Like, it should not back itself into a corner. Eventually, nope, no missiles on this tack squad. Was wondering if we were going to see that. Oh, he didn't have the power for it, because Overtly Gemerous' power income is pretty low. This has been, although there was an early victory point lead for Overtly Gemerous, this has actually been a pretty strong game in WingBlade's favor for most of it. Takes out a scout model there with that Death Dread. Death Dread currently completely unopposed. Missile Launcher Tack Squad still not upgrading. Instead, he's going to go for the Devastator, which, to be fair, is a harder anti-vehicle response on a more inexpensive squad. So it actually makes a reasonable amount of sense. And I do feel that what we have seen here so far has kind of proven true, which is that just the blind purchase of the Razorback against the Death Dread without any additional purchases from Overtly Gemerous has been stronger for WingBlade. Devastator Marine Squad doesn't even have an upgrade yet. I'm actually Oh my god, his requisition income is so low that he wasn't even able to afford a las cannon. Finally starts getting it, but I mean, with plus 187, yeah, this is an extremely dominant position for WingBlade. This is very quickly, and perhaps already has been, a not very close game one of this series. I think for like the first 3 minutes it didn't look too bad, which honestly is how the first 3 minutes of games usually look. Bomber Boy disruption there. That Bomber Boy disruption is also something that's going to make it incredibly hard for the Devastator Marines to really ever threaten the Def Dreads. And I believe, oh no, I thought WingBlade had 2 Def Dreads, and he did start building 2, but eventually he canceled it. Yeah, the Def Dread here is actually getting so much, it's creating so much space and getting so much value. Even if it's not really going to get kills here, it's just overtly Gemerous is in his base with a Def Dread that he can't really fight, and WingBlade controls the whole map. So he's trying to kite around with the Devastator Marine squad. Here is another time where I almost feel like it should just be a missile launcher purchase. Because this doesn't really happen if he has a missile launcher. Because when you only have one source of AV, you really need to protect that one source of AV. And as we can see, that one source of AV is not being protected well enough. But when you have 2 sources of AV, if the vehicle starts chasing after one of them, the other source of AV just shoots at it. And then if it turns its attention, then it can get shot at by both. This game is done. This game is 100% done, actually. So WingBlade coming off to a dominant start. Still no missile launcher. Yeah, and the thing about the missile launcher is, like, some people might look at that and say, like, oh, but the missile launcher's not that great. And the truth is the missile launcher isn't that great. But the point is that it's an option, and it's an option that you have on an upgradable squad that you probably already have, and sometimes you get it simply because that is what is available. So missile launcher finally comes in. It's far too late. Devastator Marines are already gone. WingBlade really has pretty much won this game. Overtly Gemerous is just hanging on, but I mean, just more and more things are going down. This is 100% game one in favor of WingBlade. And I mean, WingBlade was playing better for much of this game, but definitely where pretty much the nail in the coffin was the Def Dread coming out and overtly Gemerous just not really respecting the Def Dread enough and investing what he needed to respond to it. Purification rights heal, knocking over the Kommando knob, who has the rocket launcher. I think at that point, rocket launcher. Oh, and the battle wagon is being built, but it will never see the light of day, as the victory points will tick down before that can happen. So yeah, I mean, that was a stop. But this series is not over yet. So let's move on to game number 2. Game number 2 will take place on Leviathan Hive. WingBlade this time will be playing as the Warlock. This is a melee hero, can become a tank or an offensive spellcaster. His opponent, overtly Gemerous, will be playing as the Techmarine, Space Marine ranged hero with a gun for every occasion and the ability to repair vehicles. So as is normally the case in Elite League, the players are required to change their hero every single map, whether they win or not. And in the case of Gemerous, who is known for playing the Apothecary exclusively, that could be seen as something that might hurt him, make things harder for him. You are supposed to have a pool of 5 heroes, and again, because you need to change your hero every single map, there is some amount of versatility that is required to really succeed in this competition. That being said, there are also strategies that you can use to kind of mitigate that or compensate for that if you don't have too much versatility. And because you need 5 heroes, that means that you can have a maximum of 5 factions, but a minimum of 2. So if you're really concerned about, I'm not too strong on too many heroes or too many factions, you can pick your strongest faction and pick all 3 heroes for that faction, and then just try to pick 2 heroes for like your next strongest. And the thing is also, in the group stage, these are only best of 3 matchups. So that means, at least to make it through the group stage, you could theoretically make it through playing only 1 faction. By the time you get to the playoff bracket, though, you may find yourself needing to play on a different race, because those become best of 5 series. So let's see how Overtly Gemerous does on the Techmarine. This is literally the first time in my life that I've seen him play the Techmarine, because I have only seen him play the Apothecary prior to this. But WingBlade is the one who has to do a little bit more flexing and show a little bit more versatility, because he switched to an entirely different race. Dire Avengers moving around, just kidding, they're now Guardians, I keep forgetting that. Even down a model, they're actually a little bit stronger in combat than the Scout Squad. However, they were out of cover, and then the Warlock came to join the party. Dire Avengers, or rather Guardians, God, that's just so hard. Can't deal with this Techmarine, though. They will lose quite handily against the Techmarine. It's actually not that great of an idea to have the Techmarine forcing melee. He does a lot more damage in range, and the only advantage to forcing melee is that they won't shoot back. But they already weren't shooting back because they were focused on capturing that victory point. Howling Banshees, meanwhile, complete the bash on that node. They don't even bother approaching there. They just hit the retreat button immediately to prevent them from even losing any models from the tactical marine fire on retreat. Obviously, they can't approach. They would just get shotgun blasted. They were clearly outnumbered there. Double Ranger out of WingBlade. Going for a little bit of the Gouda here, the cheese. Double Rangers, very, very strong against the Scouts, but one of those Ranger squads is just caught out of position. Rangers have a range of 65 units. Shotgun Scouts have a range of 24. So they're... when you're on top of your micro, really, the Rangers should not be getting into the range of those shotguns. And unfortunately for WingBlade, that little mispositioning from him does allow Overtly Gemerous to make a push for this generator farm. Node has already been taken down. I actually don't like the decap by the Tactical Marines. I think what he's thinking here is he wants to get the decap with the Tactical Marines because they have the faster capping speed. I kind of wanted to see them personally bash another generator and let the Scouts or the Techmarine bash that. Probably not the Scouts. The Scouts needed to be ready with a shotgun blast. And I guess what Overtly Gemerous is thinking, he's just trying to still win this fight, but the problem is, even if he wins the fight, which actually I don't think he is anymore, his Tactical Marines were taking so much damage from the Double Rangers that they needed to get out of there. Scouts need to be really careful as well. They can't stick around very long against these Double Rangers either. When you have Double Rangers, it's almost like having one Ranger squad on retail, where you're actually just taking, I forget whether it's either 60 or 90. I think it's 60, because I think the Rangers fire a little bit faster. Basically, I believe you're taking 60 damage per shot from the Rangers, so if they both shoot at the same time, that would be 120.
No need for haste.
Alright, so Overtly Gemerous still no tier 1.5 squad, instead going for the Scout, Tac Scout, and then just going for the upgrades. No upgrade on his Techmarine, though, so it feels like he's investing a little bit less compared to the previous game where he had an upgrade on every single one of his tier 1 squads. I mean, he does actually... Oh, okay. So he's still got pretty heavy upgrades on the Scouts. Grenade goes out, connects with the Guardians. They need to get out of there, absolutely, because the shotguns are also being upgraded as well. They're going to infiltrate, so that's actually very heavy investment in this one Scout squad, while still actually being some investment in this Scout squad as well. And again, it really does confuse me how the Rangers are getting this close to the Shotgun Scouts. And it might just be that I think of this, especially these days when I am not really playing that much and I'm mostly just casting, but honestly, even back when I did, I do view things a lot from a theory craft perspective and how things should be. And since Rangers have 65 range and Scout Shotguns have 24... Shotgun scouts should really rarely ever be getting that close to rangers. Just got to stay on top of the micro. And because really, the double rangers should be oppressing the scouts really, really hard. Like the rangers, especially if they're together, if they open fire once on a scout squad, the scout squad needs to consider retreating. Because the first volley will not kill a model, but the second one probably will. Warlock in a little bit of trouble here. I think he's okay if the Tax can get in range for force melee, but I don't think they've got the right angle, so I think the Warlock is okay. I think force melee from the Tactical Marines, if they had just gotten in the right spot, could have done it. So Rangers now actually oppressing those scouts as they are supposed to. But now overtly Gemerous, oh no, look what he's done. He's doing what he does in team games. Oh no! He didn't get the point back. Oh no. This is exactly what we've seen overtly Gemerous do in team games. He aggressively gets your power, decaps it, steals it for himself, which is why he wasn't looking for the generator bashing. And oh my god, look at how much time WingBlade is losing right now by trying to get this back. Like, it's at the point where I think he might have to put a node here and try to get some power income here because he's literally at plus 15 power income. I super think he needs to cancel this second Guardian weapon team. He's going to be in tier... Like, he's going to be in tier 1 for the rest of the game here.
This node is vulnerable anew. Quickly now.
Oh my god. The delaying. He's going to get an attack squad with that. Still prevents WingBlade from even recapturing that. And the only problem is I suggested putting a node here, but overtly Gemerous had already made a pass at that farm, so he would have just burned that down as well. This is... Scout squad goes down, though. So that is, at this point, a small victory for WingBlade. WingBlade has massive amounts of requisition. We've got the Howling Banshees coming in with the flank, so a little bit more about how you're actually supposed to use Howling Banshees. Getting a lot of model kills, so a lot that WingBlade is getting here. Why did it not go for that second Tactical Marine squad? Probably could have gotten another model on that one, too. Probably just turned his... Oh, because he realized... now it's actually very clear why. Because he needs... Oh, my God. Overtly Gemerous put another node on this one. This is ridiculous. Oh, my God. You have to be kidding me.
Node deactivated. Shall we secure it?
Okay, he finally gets it, but that is painful. Painful. With so much requisition, I think he should have even just put a node down here. This is pretty painful. Now that being said, overtly Gemerous does have... I think, actually, to be fair, overtly Gemerous overdid it a little bit. He should not have gone for that last stall with the node, even though it bought a lot more time to keep WingBlade in Tier 1. The problem is that it is also keeping overtly Gemerous in Tier 1, because he has a massive surplus of power, but not enough requisition to go into Tier 2. So, one fewer nodes on this by overtly Gemerous would have been enough requisition for him to go to Tier 2 about 30 seconds earlier. And, I mean, he's beating WingBlade to Tier 2 anyway, for rather obvious reasons. But, this has been a bizarre game so far. Bizarre game so far. Rangers retreating once again, and I again feel that this Ranger play could be improved a little bit. The Rangers are infiltrated. I want to see them take shots at maximum range against the Tactical Marines, and then reposition after that. Instead of just trying to stay in the same spot, reposition so that if they're approached by other Tactical Marines or the Techmarine, they should still be safely away. Again, these Rangers have, their range is 65 units, unless that's been changed in the most recent patch, which I don't think it has, but I'll double-check in between this game and the next one. Tactical Marines and the Techmarine only have a range of 38 units, and that I know 100% that that has not changed, because that is just the standard range that ranged units have in this game. Ranged infantry, at least. Shotgun scouts, meanwhile, being slowed down by this Warlock. Yeah, it's quite a different game here in this second game, and that's why, you know, as much as a stomp as that first game was in favor of WingBlade, you know, that's why I chose to continue casting this series. Clearly, Gemerous was not out of it. Although probably struggling a little bit here, given that he's not playing the Apothecary and he's got these rather low-health tactical marine squads. Has to be super careful about that with the Rangers approaching. The Rangers are going to approach, but they're firing at the Techmarine, and that is quite a bit less impactful than firing at the Tax. If they had caught this, especially this low-health Tax squad, one more volley would probably take out another model on this Tax squad. And when I say one more volley, I mean one more volley from both of the Rangers combined, since they are just working as a pair right now. Tier 2 for WingBlade is approaching, while Overtly Gemerous is getting a Dreadnought. Now, Overtly Gemerous could have gone for a Razorback. I think, actually, a Razorback... Oh! The Warlock is taken down. Amazingly enough, that's actually not something that hurts WingBlade at this time, because he does have such a massive surplus of requisition. So he brought back the Warlock right away. That actually was not such a big deal, other than just the experience that was gained from it for those squads. Kinetic Pulse is used, but they're not moving. Another Kinetic Pulse is used, and they're actually kind of winning this fight here. Tactical Marines probably looking for force melee. This is where, again, the Rangers want to be backing up. Even like Fleet of Foot, but instead they're going to wait for the Warlock to approach, and they will just outgun the Tactical Marines, who are just really low on hit points. My god, so many of these Tactical Marine models dying. Unfortunately, though, WingBlade... Okay, he actually does have a Falcon coming, so he won't be completely at the mercy of the Dreadnought. Now, I do feel like we see some of the things that Overtly Gemerous could have done better here, in spite of the fact that clearly he is actually kind of dominating this game too. If he had put one fewer nodes on the generator farm that he stole from WingBlade, he could have gone to tier 2 earlier. And then, even considering the time that he did make it to tier 2, he could have gotten a Razorback instead of a Dreadnought, and with a Razorback instead of a Dreadnought, he could have run over here completely unopposed and destroyed the power farm again, or steal it for him again. Probably at that point in the game, probably destroying it would be better, because he probably would not be able to pull off the generator shenanigans, or rather the node shenanigans that he did early on with more powerful tier 2 units coming out on the field. Now, interesting choices for WingBlade. He's got single Bright Lance. He's going to have double Wraithguard coming along the way. The double Wraithguard is something... I don't think you see double Wraithguard that often, but the truth is, against what Overtly Gemerous has, double Wraithguard may actually be just fine. It may actually be even better than fine, because Overtly Gemerous' army is strictly ranged. Strictly ranged. And the truth is, in a head-to-head fight, most units in this entire game do not beat Wraithguard in a head-to-head fight. Ranged Terminators definitely would, but even many other Tier 3 squads, say like Flash Kits, would lose head-to-head in just a direct shootout with Wraithguard. Actually, technically, the Flash Kits could outrange the Wraithguard, so I could be wrong, but if the Wraithguard are in range, they pretty much win most range fights, because they will be suppressing and doing big burst damage on hit. Spirit Seer coming for this Wraithguard, giving it a little bit more speed. Howling Banshees charge in here. Charge in here, perhaps getting a little bit desperate. Victory points getting low, but they might also kill this Techmarine. Grenade goes in, and Overtly Gemerous not quite on top of his micro there. I think just so many other threats. Yeah. I mean, Overtly Gemerous is definitely doing quite a bit better this game. He's winning. He's technically winning. But his micro getting a little bit taxed there. And now he also has some issues where, well, he can't revive the Techmarine. Oh my god. He can't revive the Techmarine with a global like he could the Apothecary. He will need to spend the requisition. It looks like he has spent a requisition on something else, and I'm not 100% sure what that is just yet. So as strange as this sounds, it might even be a good time for Overtly Gemerous to buy Assault Marines. This late, it might honestly even be better for him to not go to Tier 3 and get Assault Marines and then try to go to Tier 3 a little bit later. Although even a single squad of Assault Marines would... They would have their work cut out for them. There are 2 squads of Wraith Guard. One guard... No, both of the Guardian weapon teams are actually Bright Lances now. They are no Shuriken Cannons. That's actually good for a potential Assault Marine purchase. Howling Banshees still definitely present quite a bit of threat to the Howling Banshees, or to the Assault Marines. I think Overtly Gemerous has a purchase that's hidden right behind this. No, he does not. So I think he's probably also in a situation where he's a little unsure of what to do next. He could revive the Techmarine. Techmarine cost should be reduced down to 250 by now. But my guess is he's saving up for a Predator. A Predator, maybe. Actually, there are many things he could save up for. Venerable Dread might actually be a better choice, but then there's the double Bright Lance. It's actually kind of a tough call. I think part of what Overtly Gemerous is dealing with here is, I think any one unit that he buys at this point is not quite going to be enough, and I think it's more likely that he actually needs 2 units. And he's been winning this game so far, but it does suddenly feel like he is now on the back foot. Victory points are still in his favor, and WingBlade does have a lot to make up, but compositionally, WingBlade is definitely in a stronger position. And WingBlade should be winning most fights for the time being. Okay, these double Wraithguard are here. They're going to find themselves getting approached in melee by the Dreadnought, which makes me wonder where are the Bright Lances. The Bright Lances should kind of be here to cover that. This chase, I'm not 100% sure. He's doing friendly fire to his own Banshees with the Wraithguard. And I'm not even sure if this chase even results in the Dreadnought dying. Especially if Gemerous just activates the Blessing of the Omnissiah. I'm pretty sure the Dreadnought gets out alive, no question. But either he doesn't realize it, I think he just doesn't realize that he has that option at this moment in time. He's going to lose it, and I'm pretty sure he didn't have to. And suddenly this is now a really bad position for Overtly Gemerous. He's in Tier 3, so he could put something out. And I think some kind of global, Terminators or Venerable, probably Venerable. I don't dislike the Venerable. I think it's actually a pretty good choice here. Oh, and that's also why he did not want to use Blessing of the Omnissiah, because he wanted to get the Venerable. That makes sense. It makes sense, but I also don't entirely agree with it. If anything, I think it might have been better to use Blessing of the Omnissiah, keep that existing Dreadnought alive, and then get even another Tier 2 Dreadnought. So I'm not even entirely feeling that the timing of Overtly Gemerous' Tier 3 has been really particularly great for him. Did we see this Ranger squad go down? 2 hit points and they make it out of there alive. Let's also take a look. Does the Warlock has no upgrades, so kind of interesting to see him with no upgrades. This late into the game, I feel like the Warlock does not scale that well without upgrades. I mean, it's also just a fact, maybe not strictly a fact, but generally my opinion that you need War Gears to scale your hero, and most heroes do not scale that well without War Gears. Some probably do better than others. I personally feel that the Warlock without any kind of War Gears is pretty weak in the late game. I think there might be some, I think I would personally think, any of the much tankier heroes who have better baseline damage, say, maybe the Hive Tyrant, would do a little bit better in that regard, but the Warlock, not as much health to work with. His damage out of the gate is not too strong. I think it's around 30 DPS, which is pretty average, actually. So he's got the Witchblade of Kurnos. That is actually going to a little bit more than double his existing damage, so that's good. Grants him Ethereal Slash. I'm not entirely sure if actually this is really the pick for him at this moment. I might even feel that the Merciless Witchblade and going for some other war gears on the basically the Jedi build with the Champion's Robe might be a little bit better than the Witchblade of Kurnos at this time. Witchblade of Kurnos would do a little bit more damage to the Tactical Marines in melee, but not too much. Okay, so the Venerable Dreadnought has kind of been baited now into the range of the Guardian Weapon team, so clearly the Tactical Marines are going to be looked to force melee there. Now we see Blessing of the Omnissiah on the Venerable Dreadnought. Where's the second Guardian Weapon team? In base. Okay, so Ethereal Slash is used there. Actually nearly wipes the Tactical Marines. They're down to only one model. I'd say that's one way in which I do actually like the Ethereal Slash, which is if he is going to use it to guard his Guardian Weapons teams when they are approached by those Tacs attempting to force melee. The problem is there that the Warlock wasn't really in range at the time when he really needed to be to completely prevent the Tacs from tying up the Guardian Weapon team. So we see this is happening right now. Guardian Weapons teams have not moved up. There's only one left, actually. One has been taken out. Techmarine also taken down as well. Overtly Gemerous also saving a lot of resources. What is Overtly Gemerous going to get at this point? At some point, he's probably just going to want the Techmarine back. Oh, wow, the Dreadnought charging in. Oh, my God, I can't believe that actually took out the Wraith Guard. That is unbelievable. Okay, the Howling Banshees, though, why are they... Oh, okay, they're running away because this is still a melee... Oh, no. No, don't... this should not happen. No. Oh, no. WingBlade lost his only remaining hard AV. Just kind of being caught out and forgetting to retreat it. Ouch. That really hurt to see. You hate to see it. It has been a little bit of a messy game, but as we see, the victory points just about actually to tick down in favor of Overtly Gemerous. This one, the first game was a stomp, but this one was a slobber knocker. Actually, a lot of back and forth towards the end, in spite of the really strong start for Overtly Gemerous, and that will take us to a Game 3. Game number 3 in our best of 3 series from Division B of the Elite League between WingBlade, what a nice name that would be, WingBlade and Overtly Gemerous, going to take place on Quest Heresy. WingBlade is playing as the Warboss, big tanky melee hero, walks through cover, can be suppressed, a lot of aggression and health regeneration on this guy, and Overtly Gemerous going to be switching over to the final Space Marine hero, the Force Commander. Tanky melee hero that buffs and disrupts with Battlecry. Wow, this Force Commander moving pretty far ahead. WingBlade, yeah, he puts a node on it to prevent the steal and the decap. He probably could have actually knocked the Force Commander off if he really needed to. But, as we see, Overtly Gemerous going for the last Space Marine hero, so he's only playing one faction. And you can do that in the group stage. You can do that in the group stage because series are only best of 3. So if he does make it into the bracket, he may have to find himself playing other races, and we would see what that would look like. Warboss right here, just chasing after the Force Commander, just using up a lot of his time. And I think WingBlade got the slightly better end out of that opening. He was doing a better job of capturing up the map a little bit sooner. Yeah, and there was actually not a whole lot that Overtly Gemerous achieved with that aggressive push with the Force Commander. He chased people around, he spent a lot of his health, but it was WingBlade who had control of the map just a little bit earlier, so economy should be a bit in his favor. WingBlade has spent a little bit more on... Oh no, he hasn't actually spent a little bit more. We see two nodes going down for Overtly Gemerous, whereas WingBlade has the node and a single generator. So as is kind of the case for Overtly Gemerous, we're seeing the upgrades coming in rather than the tier 1.5 unit. At this point, just based on what I've seen of his style of play from the last two games, I expect that to continue. I don't expect a tier 1.5 unit, and I expect to just see upgrades on all these squads. And now watch him prove me wrong and buy Assault Marines or something. WingBlade getting some upgrades himself. Bang Bang Hammer, big DPS increase on this Warboss early on in the game. 75 DPS. Also increases the speed and damage of nearby allied infantry with each attack. So it is both an aggressive damage option as well as a support option. That being said, Warboss will get forced out there. Forced off, rather. WingBlade still with the better control of the resources, but it is Overtly Gemerous who does have the double cap. Slugga's kind of caught out of position there. Their health will be burned down, and that's an instant retreat. That's about as good as WingBlade can do for kind of just cutting his losses there. He retreated and not lost a single model, but that's still a lot of field presence that was lost from him kind of unnecessarily by just moving his Sluggas out into the fog of war and not moving away more quickly when the scouts and the tanks started shooting at them. Stormboy's coming in, though, so WingBlade certainly getting the tier 1.5 units. Let's take a look and see if the shotguns are coming in. So first shotgun coming in on the first scout squad. Where is that scout squad? It is here. They'll probably use their shotgun blast soon. They just have it pretty much in time right here. Ooh, but they don't get the knockback. They only get the suppression. Stormboys, however, not able to get any further melee attacks on the scouts. Scout model does go down there, trying to just run away from the Stormboys. May not have been worth that. Even the Force Commander needs to be a little bit careful here. He better have Battle Cry ready, because there is no Shotgun Blast, and he realized he just needs to retreat as well. Okay, eventually, though, the Stormboys, oh my, not even losing a single model. Stormboys are not bleed boys today. I love, though, when the Warboss attacks by kicking with his foot. I also like that particular hammer swing animation where he doesn't actually swing the hammer. He kind of just jabs with the top of the hammer. Tactical Marines are going to lose a model here, probably, if they do not retreat anytime soon. They lose a model anyway. Waiting a little bit too long on that one. Strange generator placement here. This generator was actually placed on this node, and then it appears on the other side of the wall, which is actually really good for Gemerous as long as he has it, because it at least means this generator is pretty hard to bash. But at the moment, WingBlade just going to look to take it. Force Commander is here by himself, gets knocked over by the stomp from the Warboss. Oh no, he shouldn't have engaged on this. I think he's going to go down. He does. Slugga takes him out, kills him with the jumping pistol shots. An awesome sync kill, but couldn't really get a good view of it there. It was kind of covered by a lot of things. And this is not looking like a very good start for Overtly Gemerous. He's about to lose this node right here. He already lost that contested power. This one's not technically contested. Anyway, Stormboys jumping in. Double Stormboys out of WingBlade. Is that an Overwatch mistake, or is that intentional? The Force Commander's just coming out here. Okay, he has the Artificer armor, and that's also really something where I don't know if the Artificer armor is really what you need this early on in the game just by itself. It's going to make the Force Commander more tanky, but we're seeing that the way he's being put in engagements right now, it really isn't mattering. If he's in an engagement where he is being surrounded by Sluggas or Stormboys and he doesn't have Battle Cry ready, his health is going to drop fast. It doesn't matter whether he has 820 health or 1,020 health. Shooter Boys. This is a funny fight. Eventually, Shooter Boys will win it because the Storm Boys are here to help him out. Oh no. Has Gemerous gone AFK? It's lucky that he does not lose that scout squad there. I'm actually really surprised that those Storm Boys did not do more damage to those scouts. So Battlecry is activated, but nothing else is going to be achieved with that Battlecry proc. I'm pretty sure that was Battlecry used, because there's no follow-up. So it's a very, very disjointed game for Overtly Gemerous here. And on the side of WingBlade, clearly, Game 1 was very strong for him. Game 2, not so much. And Game 3 is starting to look very strong for him again. So this could also kind of be a question of, is he just a stronger Orc player than he is an Eldar player? Tactical Marines, once again, just being caught by the Stormboy jump. This pretty much has to be a retreat. It's got to be a retreat or a shotgun blast. And the Stormboys actually just decide to back up, I guess not wanting to deal with the potential bleed on their own. They already control most of the map. I think here the safer choice is the better choice. Instead of chasing in there and then eventually having the Stormboys needing to retreat, nice charge. Retreats after he realized he messed up his charge. Stormboy's gonna have to retreat now. They might even get wiped from that. Oof. Yeah, that entire engagement a little bit sloppy. Warboss not getting his charge in correctly because he charged into the node. Stormboys then all by themselves and actually getting wiped by stepping on the foot grenade. Pretty tough one. You know, in spite of that, this is still a massively winning game for WingBlade at the moment. Victory points may look even. It may even be a slight lead for Overtly Gemerous, but he just had his natural power decapped. He doesn't have any other power. WingBlade has all the other power. WingBlade is going to tier 2. Overtly Gemerous, oh no. And Overtly Gemerous seems like he finds himself in this situation a lot. Finds himself running a surplus of power, but a shortage of requisition. And he still hasn't. I'm wondering. Wait, he's got so much power. Why isn't he going to tier 3? But he still hasn't hit the 300 mark. And this is also a really tough situation for him, where, you know what, he has to go to tier 2. He has to just do it, or he's out of this game. He has to go to tier 2, and then he needs to find a spot where he can put down. I guess just put down another node. That's his only choice. Get enough requisition to put down a node. Go to tier 2, though, because the Death Dread. Like, at this point, I think the Death Dread will just win the game for WingBlade. Okay, Overtly Gemerous finally goes to tier 2. I think he was getting some kind of other purchase, and he's, so many scout models, so much bleed. That has definitely been a little bit of an issue for him, and I think especially in part because we're seeing Overtly Gemerous off of his comfort pick of the Apothecary. So Forest Commander is going to be overwhelmed, and he might even go down yet again. I think Shotgun Blast might have saved him there, especially considering this was an upgraded Tier 2 Slugga squad with a Knob chasing after him. But let's see. Okay, the Death Dread is here. And this is also where, like, Overtly Gemerous going to Tier 2 later is also such a huge problem, because now this Death Dread, like, if we see where Overtly Gemerous is right now, and if we think about how early he could have picked it, could have upgraded to Tier 2, by now he could respond to this Death Dread with a Power Fist or a Missile Launcher. One of those. Okay, he actually already has started upgrading to the Missile Launcher. Okay, for the moment the game continues. Well, we'll see how much... Oh, no. This is the squad that's upgrading to the Missile Launcher, and they're being tied up. Yeah, unfortunately, it definitely has been part of the story of Overtly Gemerous of getting hit with these vehicles and not quite being ready to respond to them. Oh, no. And we're going to see scouts taken out by the Stormboys, most likely just sending them over there in a desperate attempt to get back into this game, probably losing track of them. For the Emperor is put on the Missile Launcher Attack Squad. We see WingBlade just trying to use these line of sight blockers. and then as soon as the Tactical Marines try to move further in, that's when the support comes in for the Death Dread. Tactical Marines could probably take a shot at the Death Dread for right now. Would not be enough. They actually don't even take the shot. They just retreat. They could have turned around, took a shot, then retreated. I don't even think the missile launch attack squad was really the one that was under threat. Well, there's not a whole lot to talk about right now. This ends up actually being a lot like Game 1, where I think WingBlade has already won here. I think the series is over. I mean, we could make some kind of argument. Maybe if we get another missile launcher on the tac squad, maybe he can realistically threaten the Death Dread enough to possibly take one out. But I don't think it's going to happen. And the longer this triple cap goes on, at some point WingBlade just does tech up to tier 3. He's not too far away from it. Overtly, Gemerous is not going to tier 3 ever. Shotgun scouts. Oh, no shotgun blast to knock them away. Bomber Boy is just disrupting everything. Literally certainly hit both attack squads as well as the Force Commander. Just kind of delaying. This time, WingBlade will find himself getting a better charge, knocks over. There's just so much disruption from WingBlade. Like, overtly, Gemerous' units can't even stand up long enough to fight. Okay, now I can say with absolute certainty that this game is 100% over. Yeah, double Death Dread in base. It's like, now, even if he had 2 missile launchers, he literally couldn't fight this. Oh no, gonna get hit by the special attack there. That's a really nice special attack animation, though. Yeah, I don't have moments like this very often, but at the moment, I really don't have too much else to say. Oh, both tac squads taken down. Overtly, Gemerous just kind of playing this one out, fighting to the end. Well, that was a pretty rough one in the end, even though that was a 2-to-1 series. Hope you enjoyed it, and have a good night.